0.
Dyer wave.
scientific method cannot justify the scientific method. Therefore, it itself is a dogmatic religious presupposition. Brzezinski model, the technocrat model, is much more interested in the incremental, slow kill, Fabian approach to bringing technocracy into being. So they're not going to send Homeland Security troops to round you up and put you in a FEMA camp. They'd much rather promote everybody being enmeshed in video games, the Disney gulag, the virtual reality gulag, all this kind of stuff is a much better FEMA camp in your home. They don't need the FEMA camp. It's too messy. It's a big ordeal. And so all the nonsense of all the patriot crap on the radio, that's not going to happen. They don't need to. The shadow global government is already here. And as we said, it's in the latter stages of the mopping up process to move it into the next phase, i.e. between two ages of the next age.
Can you hear me now? Soldiers of oblivion. You can hear me now. Listening to the Dyer wave. You can hear me now. Winch Mage of Oblivion. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, see, you have to switch between all these different audio things. Blah, 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 blah. So, I want you to hear beautiful things that I hear. Right? That Dyer wave, that sweet Dyer wave. Don't you hear that? Welcome. Winch Mage of Oblivion.
5, 4.
We're gearing up, y'all.
3,
Yeah.
2,
5, 4, 3,
0.
2.
Dyer
All that
wave.
word salad is just part of my wizardry. Yeah. What's up? Oh, I'm just on the phone. I'm talking to the wizards, dog. Yeah. We're about to kick a Conan style up in here. Snake cults are real. Come to me, my son. Jump off that cliff. Yeah. For real. Crom. That's right. It's called Dyer wave. We're gonna kick it. I gotta hear the song. Here we go. Anyway. Soldiers of Oblivion. Forget it. We'll turn the Dyer wave down. I had a good song I was going to sing. It was great during the first few minutes, and then the microphone doesn't. You have to switch it over in the mixer, blah, 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 blah. The riddle of live streaming, yeah. It's different when you have people on. You have to switch everything over when it's just me. So, it's different. All right, welcome to the Conan show. Damn it, I had the best pagan Conan song. And it worked so good with the Dyer wave. I'll just have to sing over the Dyer wave and upload that separate. Or upload that as the intro, too. Conan. Somebody said, are you doing an episode on Conan O'Brien? And I said, no. Conan the Barbarian, if that's what you mean. Yes. So we're going to start with the stink ball, Red Sonja. Red Sonja was a terrible movie. It ended people's careers. It was a bunch of dirt, a bunch of nonsense. And we're going to start with some of the cool movie facts about Red Sonja. It was a giant disappointment. Cost $18 million. And it made $7 million. And it was released on the same day as Back to the Future. Marty! Bad idea, right? It killed the careers of the two screenplay writers, George Fraser and Clive Exton. You're out. You're done. You have a $20 million bomb that makes $7. You're out. Now, I know this was supposed to be the third in the Conan series, but it was so difficult to get this made that it just ended up being a big disaster. There was a steamy affair between Arnold and Briggite Nielsen. Arnold then dumped her when they got back from filming. I think this was filmed in Mexico, yeah. No, I'm sorry. This wasn't filmed in Mexico. I don't know where this one was filmed, but it's Conan the Destroyer that was filmed in Mexico, which was being filmed at the same time as Dune. Hence the De Laurentiis Film Company connection, you see. But Arnie dumped Brigitte after their steamy affairs. And then Brigitte came back and married Stallone. This is credited, 1985, with killing the sword and sandal genre for many, many, many years. I don't know what the next sword and sandal hit would be. Lord of the Rings? I don't know. Not much in the 90s sword and sandal that I can think of that was successful. Remember First Night? That was a bunch of junk. Remember that dragon movie with Sean Connery? That was awful. Anyway, Arnold is on record supposedly. Now this is just from movie facts. I don't know if any of this shit's true, but it's funny, right? It makes for a good story. Arnold is on record saying that he has no pride in this film, and he claims that when he was disciplining his children, he would actually punish them for their misbehavement by making them watch Red Sonja. That's pretty good. That's one of Arnold's best jokes. I'll have to give him credit for that. Let's see. Yeah, we did that. So when he started dating Maria Shriver, she married Sylvester Stallone, and that didn't last very long. And then the villain, Sandal Bergman, who is a wine grandma now, it was the hero. She was the blonde lover to Arnold in the first one. So that's some neat movie facts. We're going to be including the neat movie facts section just to spice it up a little bit so that we're not typecast. I can't be typecast as the guy who does esoteric movie reviews. She has savage red hair, according to the movie's description. Savage. She grows up in a savage land. She is a pagan shield maiden of Valkyrie. Where is Varg? Is Varg a fan? Or is this Hollywood destroying the legitimate honor and history of the Aryan shield maidens? CROM! CROM! It takes place during the Hyborian Age, which is a fictional creation of the comic book from which it arises, which comes from the Hyperborean mythical ancient Greek lands, the lands of the north where the giants come from, right? Where gigantic George R.R. Martins come from, the land of the north. Vengeance shall be yours, right? This is what they tell the spirits, the Valkyries, I guess, Briggite, Sonja, when she's raped and pillaged by the forces of the evil queen. Now, this is such a cookie cutter plot that it's quite literally the same plot as Conan, but they just stuck in the redheaded chick, right? And of course, it's very subtle, but did you notice that the queen, the evil witch queen, is a lesbian? She's an evil witch lesbian queen. I never caught that until this last viewing. And Sonja has a mullet. This is kind of a mullet, I guess. But both Sonja and Conan have the same do. red mullet. We see a weird cult, just like in Conan, rehash that, right? And they're concerned with the destruction of the talisman. The talisman is a glowing green volleyball that is able to create worlds. This is the white bitch Starbucks cult, the white bitch wine mom Starbucks cult. I don't know why they're all white bitches. And they have the talisman of the highest gods, the god of the gods, the creator's talisman. But the talisman has become too powerful, and so the priestesses decide to destroy it. Now, this is interesting because this is an obvious Gnostic theme, right? That the ability to create worlds is merely just some advanced technology, and that we'll eventually have this advanced technology. But here, it's a bunch of white bitches that got the control of it, right? Now, if they have the ability to create worlds, why don't they just create a world where there's no lesbian witch queens? That's my first logic question for the logic of Red Sonja. Because we then see in the midst of this ritual of the destruction of the talisman of creation, the witch queen, the lesbian witch queen, shows up, and she's ready to steal the talisman for its power. But why didn't she just steal the talisman the day before the destruction ritual? I mean, if you knew that there was the talisman of power to create worlds, why wait until the day that it's going to be tossed into the abyss to hijack it? Anyway. So, the 80s, by the way, they really enjoyed glowing green things and glowing blue things. 80s blue lightning and glowing green orbs and talismans and goo. If you remember John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness, the substance of evil itself is glowing green goo. Slimer is glowing green goo. No one can touch it. Touch it! Touch it! Except the women. And particularly the virgins and whatnot, right? Well, I'm not sure what this means. There's obviously a sexual undercurrent to all of the Conan series. I don't know why no one can touch it, but that's what the mythology of this world is. No one can touch it. Now, again, I don't see why, if you can create worlds, you don't just create a new world without the lesbian witch queen. By the way, not PC. This is not PC. Evil lesbian witch queens should have every right to steal wench maidens if they so desire. So this is BC that's not PC. However, as we'll see in a moment, Red Sonja will actually be quite PC. So there will actually be some BC PC and some BC OPP in the midst of the BC NPC. Anyway, I don't know what it means. Somebody was asking me, what is the symbolism in this film? And I said, I don't know. Hyboria. We learn, I'm going to skip the Hyboria note. So we learn that she hates men, right? She's been raped and mistreated, maltreatment. And so she is a social justice warrior. She's Red Sonja Justice Warrior. She's a Sonja Justice Warrior. And even her Pai Mei looking handler tells her, you can't hate all men, dude. Sonja, that's just not going to make you happy. I'm going to pull him up for you here. Is this guy an inspiration for Pai Mei? He sure looks like it. Let's see. Oh man, I hate it when the JPEGs won't work in the damn. So now I'm gonna do this, blah 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 blah. Climb! Kill some time with a good. I put my sword in my mouth like a damn barbarian. I pick my teeth with this sword, dog. So her handler, just like Arnold has an Asian Eastern handler, racist. That's racist. Racist. Is that Pai Mei? It looks like Pai Mei, doesn't it? And then yeah. Oh, come on. This is so stupid. Where's Varg at? Where was Varg at? Alright, yeah, no. So here we got Pai Mei. Yeah, see? If you're going to learn the ways of the Far East, be sure it's under the tutelage of a guy that looks like that. Because if you look like that, you know your shit, dude. Don't you think? I do. Now, so he counsels Sonja not to hate men. And really, she's just waiting to be conquered by a stronger man. Because when she meets Arnold, after she finds her lovely Asian sidekicks were very token in the 80s. Short Round, right? Goonies. Shot around, Dr. John, right? There's a cute little Asian sidekick in this one, kicking butt. He's called Prince. Sounds like Prince Tard. I'm not sure what his name. Prince Tarn, I think is the name, but it sounds like he says Prince Tard. Then Conan, what's interesting is Conan's concerned with consent. That's what I found most fascinating about this, is that Conan doesn't just have his ways with this wench mage. He asks for consent. And that's respectable, that Conan would have some BC PC. And he respects Sonja, Justice Warrior. And then I thought, the movie is driven by the MacGuffin, right? The talisman. And then I thought, if talismans are MacGuffins, does life have a MacGuffin? That's something I want you to ponder. That's the only takeaway from Red Sonja. A stink bomb. That's it. That's all we have from Red Sonja. It's only entertaining if you're in the mood for a bad movie. Next, we move to Conan the Destroyer. Conan the Destroyer. Another stink bomb. The only good film in these is Conan the Barbarian, which is pretty good for what it is, right? I mean, it's goofy, but it's good. It has the most esoteric stuff, the most interesting stuff, and we can thank the great Oliver Stone for that. Although, there's some interesting facts about Oliver Stone's Conan that I will relate to you in a moment that I didn't know. 15 things you probably didn't know about Conan the Destroyer. It's based on the 1958 film The Vikings. And so for this part 2 in the loose trilogy, director John Milius went and hired Richard Fleischer, who directed The Vikings. The original script had numerous changes. It wasn't the movie that everybody thought it was going to be. It kept changing. And it was filmed in Mexico to cut down on costs. At the same time, under the De Laurentiis production company as David Lynch's 1984 Dune. I thought that was really neat. There are some similar characters in different roles between this trilogy and Dune. Olivia de Alba, the princess, was 13 when the film began. Wilt Chamberlain is in this, if you don't recall. Wilt Chamberlain, who of sleeping with 20,000 women fame, supposedly. Not sure I believe that, but that's the... that would be like 3 hoes a day for 20 years. Yeah, I'm not sure I believe that. Anyway. If you want to, by the way, if you're enjoying this show, be sure and follow me. I need followers, right? Be sure and follow me on my My Insta. Here's my Insta for you nerds out there. If you haven't followed my Insta, follow it. Yes, there's Boiler Room tonight. Fear not, wench maidens. Wench nerds. There will be a Boiler Room tonight. This also has Grace Jones, by the way, from View to a Kill fame, as we discussed in View to a Kill. So there's our lovely couple there. This was at the same time that Arnold got his dual Austrian U.S. citizenship, the day that filming began. And this actually, during the filming, and this actually helped destroy there being any Conan 3. Because Arnold was too busy moving into politics. By the time there was going to be in the late 90s and early 2000s, Conan 3. And lastly here, the Raiders of the Lost Ark Nazi who gets knocked into the propeller, if you remember that scene, is the same guy who plays Amon Toth, the magician, who looks like Alan Moore, by the way, a bald Alan Moore. He has the same little magician's claws that Alan Moore has. Let's see. So moving on here, Andre the Giant plays the Dagoth creature, which is interesting. Didn't know that. A little cameo by Andre the Giant. The monster was a creation of the people that made E.T. And there was going to be, another reason there was going to be a sequel was Predator foiled Conan 3. Interesting. If you're a fan of 80s movies and B movies, you'll like this kind of stuff because the third Conan, this is crazy, that was going to be made was turned into Cole the Conqueror. If you've seen Cole, that awful B movie, which I think Riff Trax has done Cole now, or they were going to do Cole. That was the last live one I think they were going to do. I think they've done it. Cole the Conqueror, which has a early Liam Neeson spot in that film. Liam Neeson is one of his early roles. Cole the Conqueror is the original screenplay for Conan 3. The third Conan was going to be done again in 2002. It would have been called King Conan, Crown of Iron, and it would have been the Wachowski sisters to direct it. So, no Conans. And we'll quickly move through this one because this movie is for shitbirds, dude. It's a shitbird movie. It is terrible. It was also, I believe, a flop. No, I think it made money. Yeah. And that's what, see, Arnold could make money. That was part of the reason why Arnold was, they knew he could carry the plot and not the plot, excuse me. No, you definitely can't carry that. They knew he could carry the money. And so he actually wasn't a big part of Red Sonja, but they brought him in and shot scenes to put him in to make him a character to help salvage what they thought would be a box office disaster, which it was. Interesting facts. I love all this stuff's very fascinating. And he's actually put into the poster when he has this very small role, but he's put into the poster to beef up the box office. This was still the age when a single person could carry the box office. That's pretty crazy. There's a little bit of that left, but not like it was in the 80s. And if you watch Arnold is a terrible actor. I mean, hilariously bad. He gets better a little bit. We'll give him some credit because he does get a little bit better. But, I mean, I would play the Stogies clip. If you haven't seen the Stogies clip, it's great. But I can't play the Stogies clip because that's when I made my joke video about bad videos. That one got flagged for copyright, so I can't play the Stogies clip. But you can go watch the Stogies clip on my Twitter. It's still, scroll down a little bit, you'll see the Stogies clip. It's awesome. One of my favorite Arnold lines ever. If you've not followed Jay's analysis over on the tweet stream, be sure and follow my Twitter there at Jay's analysis, as well as the Instagram. And scroll down a bit in the media section, and you'll see the Stogies clip. Arnold on Stogies. One of the funniest clips I've seen in a long time. Now, Arnold apparently thought that acting was grunting and yelling. I'm not joking either. Like, he really thought that, I think he thought that that's what you do when you act. You just kind of, he thought that the word acting translated to acting out, like acting crazy and grunting and yelling. And so everything is over the top, and that actually kind of makes it more entertaining. It's like the story that I've told many times about where when DVD commentaries were new and he was watching, they were interviewing him for the DVD commentary on something like Total Recall or something, right? Not like late 90s, early 2000s DVDs. And Arnold didn't really get what DVD commentaries were going to be. And so somebody needs to dig it up. I've heard it. It's actually pretty funny. But he thought it was just laughing and talking about what's happening. And so the DVD commentaries aren't, it's just him going, ha, look there. Ha, what am I doing? This guy, fucking crazy. Ha, wow. And there's no DVD commentary. It's just him like laughing at the scenes, which is actually itself pretty damn funny. So I think it's on Total Recall, but if somebody can dig that up, please dig that up. That's really funny. I saw it 10 years ago on YouTube, and who knows if it can be dug up. But so in this one, we're going in reverse, right? In part 2, we did part 3, Red Sonja, and now we're doing Conan the Destroyer. Conan is butthurt over the loss of Sandal Bergman, his babe. And, of course, in Hyboria, you can't go 5 miles without stumbling onto a lesbian witch queen or into a tomb from Atlantis. I mean, you can't go anywhere. Like, you're just stumbling over, magical devices and lesbian witch queens. They're just everywhere. And a lesbian witch queen wanders in and tells Arnold that she can give him his desires. She can give him back Sandal Bergman, whom Darth Vader destroyed with a snake arrow. And by the way, the tomb where Arnold got the sword, CROM's tomb, is supposed to be an ancient Atlantean tomb. I didn't learn that until this recent viewing. If you read about the film, you'll find that was in the screenplay. So there is in this one a dreaming god. Interesting. A dreaming god named Dagoth. And Dagoth is this 3-horned god who's missing his horn. And the princess has been taken captive by a wizard. This wizard has the ability to keep people in their alpha wave state almost. It's like they're in a sleep state, mind control. And he seems to have the key to the virgin princess's subconscious. And it takes Arnold to free her from the wizard. There's a very mind control-esque scene where Arnold has to break the many mirrors, right? The shatter the mirror prison world by which the wizard holds the princess captive. So there's a woke sleep motif throughout all this, is what I'm trying to say. A woke sleep motif, which is very MK, right? Only Jinha, the princess, the virgin princess, can touch the key once again. Only the princess can touch it. What is this about? Yeah, exactly. And there is, once again, a sex magic component to this, which we will find very clear in Conan the Barbarian. The key unlocks the treasure. The key is a jeweled horn. Hello. We know what that's talking about. And we have, in other words, the power of magical virginity can be unlocked, and the princess is to be sacrificed. Of course, Conan deals with all this, right? Saves the princess. We all know what happens. Kind of a no-brainer. Very paper-thin plot, but they did stick in a few of those esoteric elements, right? By the way, if you want to support Jay's analysis, feel free to with Super Chats. No Super Chats tonight. I guess you guys don't like the movie shows. You guys don't like movies anymore. Oh my God. I'm gonna have to quit. there a picture of the horn? The horn of Dagoth. By the way, they just kind of mixed the different gods, right? Dagon, Dagoth. So you get your rites and rituals. Make sure you get all your rites and rituals down. Mind control your winch mages. And use your phallic powers. You gotta channel those phallic powers. What's up, 155 nerds? Yes, Boiler Room tonight. 9 o'clock, we'll have Boiler Room Eastern. Be sure and join us for Boiler Room. I hope you're enjoying our breakdown of Conan. I had a lot of people request Conan for a long time. They're like, do Conan the Barbarian, do Conan. And I do think that there is a sex magic component to this. And it's going to be most clear when we look at Conan the Destroyer, the original. And we went in reverse because I wanted to save the best for last, right? I want you guys here for the final scene. Oliver Stone writes this. And did you know that this was really supposed to be a post-apocalyptic way into the future thing? Yeah, that's kind of weird, right? And then they decided, nah, we're not doing that because it's going to cost $70 million. And we can shoot sword and sandal epics for way cheaper, bro. And they did. Some of the interesting facts about Conan the Barbarian. Arnold was too buff and couldn't wield his sword properly. So he had to slow down on the roids and get less swole, dog. Get a little less swole. Like me, get a little less swole. And then you can wield your sword, bro. They did give Arnold a lot of weapons training, a lot of martial arts training, and horse riding lessons. So he had to train with an 11-pound broadsword for 2 hours a day for 3 months. And the broadswords cost $10,000. I don't know why they would cost $10,000, but who knows if these movie fact sites are true. I don't know. But they make for great stories, right? The runes, by the way, Arnold did his own stunts, which is commendable. That's pretty crazy because there's actually some pretty interesting stunts in Conan the Barbarian. One of which was very fascinating that we'll hear in a minute. So the runes on Conan's father's sword actually do translate. The runes translate to, "Suffer no guilt, ye who wields this in the name of CROM." Conan's response to the Mongol general is one of the best lines. Of course, it's Arnold's first line. The Mongol general says, "What is the meaning of life?" And Arnold says, famously, "Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, hear the lamentations of the women." That's a great line. All right. Oliver Stone set the story in the future in the downfall of civilization, post-apocalyptic nightmare, and it was going to be a 4-hour saga with a bunch of creatures. It would have cost the studio $70 million, and they decided, heck no. So John Milius came on board to direct and rewrote much of Oliver Stone's script. The future setting was thankfully abandoned, and the original timeline was restored to save money. Arnold suffered this is the crazy part, a crippling back injury because he fell on a rock in that dog scene. Remember the dogs that are chasing him before he falls into CROM's Atlantean tomb? Arnold was freaked out. That was real. And Arnold thought those dogs were going to bite him. Looks like they were going to. And so he actually fell off of the rocks and hit his back. They actually created a few scenes in the film to specifically mimic the artwork of Frank Frazetta. Everybody knows who Frank Frazetta is, of course. The orgy chamber, the Thulsa Doom snake, and the fight scenes. When Conan gets his sword, it's supposed to be the tomb of CROM from Atlantis. And that's an interesting connection because if you don't remember, at the very beginning, Conan's dad tells him that, right? He tells him that, yeah, there's all these gods or whatever, and don't worry about all that. Trust in steel. So Arnold trusts in steel. Now, the most fascinating fact of the whole movie is this, which was that during the crucifixion scene, when Arnold is hanging on the tree, don't know if this is true, but it makes for a great story. They used a live vulture to peck at Arnold's boobies. Now, when Arnold bites the neck, he pulls an Aussie. If it was a Aussie, mate. If it was a bloody fucking Aussie, right? Because he bites an actual vulture. And he spits the blood out and the feathers out. And it says that they immediately had to rinse Arnold's mouth to avoid disease. So Arnold literally pulls an Aussie. That was a crazy movie fact. Now, thank you for those super chats. We'll get to those in a minute. Be sure, of course, you can now, of course, also, of course, horses, of course, subscribe to Jay's Analysis through the join button there. If you're on your phone, you won't see the join button, but next time you get to a PC, you can join and subscribe to Jay's Analysis and get access to the members' content through the join button there. And support my work there. Or you can subscribe at Jay's Analysis 2. You can also buy my book, Esoteric Hollywood 1 and 2. Hundreds of 5-star reviews. Hundreds and hundreds of 5-star reviews. So if you like this kind of wacky, wild movie analysis, you will definitely like my 2 books, the basis of a TV show called Hollywood Decoded. You can also watch that at Guy TV. Now, when we get to the meat, the goblet, I mean, I'm talking about meat off of a sword meat. We get to Conan the Destroyer. This is where it gets really cool. Now, it begins with a quote from Nietzsche, right? Will to Power Nietzsche, if you don't know about him. Fred Nietzsche. That which does not hurt me only makes me stronger, which is a Kelly Clarkson song. So thank you to Kelly Cromson, Kelly Crom, for popularizing the Nietzsche phrase, the famous Nietzsche quote. Nietzsche Clarkson, Nietzsche Cromson, Kelly Cromson. We have another Chinaman sidekick, of course, in the 80s. Got to have a Chinaman sidekick. CROM is a personal god, and he's related to the time of the giants. There was a time of chaos out of which order sprang. CROM goes back to Atlantis, as I said. This is at the beginning sequence when his father is telling him about the importance of the sword. The gods left this secret of iron to men. Men are derive their power from knowing the secrets of iron. Genesis 6 kind of stuff, you know, Book of Enoch type stuff, right? The clan who has raped and pillaged Arnie's village, is the double-headed snake clan. So here we have the serpentine David Icke worldview, the Cheetah Uri, and we have the death of the mother, right? Arnold loses his mother, traumatic scenery, traumatization, and actually trauma, again, this plays into both this one and the next one, right? Because, well, all 3 of the characters are traumatized. And I think that makes a little more sense when we get to the trauma-based mind control of the princess in Conan 2 that we just covered, right? But Arnold is traumatized, and that's going to play into it later because Thulsa Doom is going to try to use that as his trigger, right? He's going to try to trigger Conan when they confront one another. Now, if you didn't know, Thulsa Doom has Art-Ho bangs, and this is what makes him exceptionally evil. If you don't know what an Art-Ho is, go look up the Art-Ho meme and my recent videos where I make fun of Art-Hos. But he definitely has Art-Ho bangs. And he does fancy himself kind of a deep Art-Ho of sorts, does he not? Yes, he does. Because there is an aesthetic to the snake cult. And he's actually spoken of as a demigod. Did you notice that? That Thulsa Doom is called a demigod, right? Because Max von Sydow, who's the king, whose daughter has been kidnapped by Thulsa Doom, says, I'm sick of this demigod. Can you go take care of Tulsa Doom. Now, guess what this cult does? They traffic in kids. They steal kids, don't they? Well, this is starting to sound real. So they steal kids, they traumatize them, and they turn them into hippies. Did you notice? It's a hippie cult. So you have like a hippie exterior of flower power tards that are run in secret by a bunch of Luciferian, serpentine, cannibalistic snake worshippers. Is Oliver Stone telling us about Hollywood? Perhaps. Sounds like it. So they steal kids. They put Arnold to work like Samson. Get your ass to the mill. Grind on that thing. Grind that mill for the next 20 years, Arnold. The wheel of time. The wheel of struggle. The wheel of history, right? It's a very Nietzschean kind of concept, right? So Arnold grinds away at the wheel of time, and it's almost like a clock, you see, which is interesting scenery. It's almost like a 90s exercise equipment type of thing, body by wheel or something, right? And it's very, very similar if you've seen the Hollywood Samson movie from, the 50s or whatever. It's very reminiscent of the scene where Samson's grinding the wheel. There are quite a few biblical references sprinkled throughout this, by the way. Obviously the crucifixion scene, but there's also a death, burial, resurrection motif when it comes to Arnold too. Now, Arnold then is recruited into becoming a gladiator. He learns the ways of pagan atheism. Might is right, right? We see this sort of dialectic in atheism, in paganism, which is ultimately kind of dialectic. I mean, not just dialectic. It's atheistic. Paganism is ultimately subjectivist, relativist, and atheistic, because the gods aren't really real, and they just kind of stand for virtues or valor or whatever, right? And so you just kind of make it up as you go, and you follow your different online pagan figures. So paganism is a form of relativism, and that actually comes up. And the best part, what are Arnold's first lines? Literally for the whole 3-5 minutes. Arnold's first lines are grunts for minutes on end. He grunts and grunts and grunts and grunts and grunts. And I think they told him that, Arnold, if you can't read your lines, grunt your lines. And he was actually going to be the narrator. Did you know that? They ended up having to use Mako, the Asian guy, because Arnold couldn't read the lines. I'm not joking. So he becomes a gladiator, and eventually this hardens Arnold Conan into believing that life is death and death is life. They are the same, right? He says something to this effect. So then he's taken to the east, and this is fascinating because he goes all the way to the east to learn the Eastern mysteries, and he's initiated into the Eastern mysteries. So he learns philosophy, which is interesting. Arnold is a philosopher. He learns letters, and he learns the ways of women. He learns the ways of women, and all the Eastern men like to watch as Arnold learns the ways of women. It's a funny scene. And he's bred to the finest stock, right? So we have this sort of eugenicist motif here. And then we have the Mongol question, what is the meaning of life? And again, I read it earlier. I won't repeat it. The great line. Now remember, CROM is an ancient king, and he is a successor from Atlantis, and he kind of chooses, mystically speaking, Arnold to be his successor as the new king, sort of directly anointed. And Conan is the king of thieves, which is interesting. He's actually kind of a low-class sort of dude who thieveries his way into the upper class, as we'll see, and he becomes very wealthy doing this. Now, the symbol is interesting because the symbol that Arnold is seeking this whole time is the double-headed snake symbol, the sun, the moon, the black sun, the black moon. Which is fascinating because it's very similar to the crozier of the Orthodox bishop. Isn't that fascinating? Did you know that? Now people will say the low IQ normevangelicals, Evangelifish will say that is a satanic symbol because you got two different snakes on a bishop's pole. That's Satanism. That is not what that symbol means, goofball. That is Moses's staff. That's what that means. Not anything to do with snake gods. The cross is the bronze pole that Moses put the serpents on. If you read John 3, Jesus explains to Nicodemus the meaning of this symbol. And goofus evangelicals just don't know what symbols mean. They think that symbols always mean the same thing in the exact same context at all times, and that's not true. Symbols are polyvalent. That means they have different levels of meaning. So here, in this context, if you read Numbers, you'll know that, I believe it's Numbers 15, 16, where the bronze serpent incident drives the snakes away. And in the Orthodox bishop's crozier, you'll see the cross is identified with the bronze serpent pole of Moses. Now, in the context of Darth Vader's snake cult, it's very different. Let's see. Let's get an image of Thulsa Doom symbol. Here we go. You'll see that it's... And by the way, it is explicitly satanic. Now, I don't say that because I'm importing my evangelical doctrine of what Satanism is onto the Bible. No. He's identified as Set. If you pay attention to the movie, to the screenplay, Thulsa Doom is identified with Set. His cult is the Set cult, which is fascinating, right? And you see there that the black sun is also a moon, which is fascinating, right? And then you have the double-headed snake. Now, again, the cult is a hippie cult, right? They have a loving, peaceful exterior with a bunch of kind of Hare Krishna-looking goofuses walking around throwing flowers everywhere. And there's a really hilarious, not PC scene where Arnold is trying to infiltrate the cult to get up to Thulsa Doom. And one of the less than straight priests of the cult makes a move on Arnold, and Arnold plays along for a minute and says, I'm very shy. Could we go in private? Right. And they walk in private, and Arnold conks him and takes the priestly garbs. Not PC. It's not PC. But it's just fascinating that, once again, I really want to stress that the cult in the movie has the hippie exterior with the interior of the total mind control stuff, which is literally how the hippie stuff is, right? The real inner structure of the hippies, right? And the CIA mind control from Tim Leary. Who was Tim Leary's number one guy? Crowley. Right? Leary said, you can thank the CIA for the whole counterculture of the 60s. And by the way, I am the new incarnation and anointed successor of Crowley. He says that in the interviews. Now, back to my notes here. So, Arnold, once, as I said, if you just stumble around in Hyboria for a little while, you'll eventually fall into a tomb or upon a bunch of orgies or lesbian witches, and he finds the sword that he needs, and then he happens upon a banshee. They have sex magic, and yes, it's sex magic because at the point of the coitus, the banshee gets possessed. Once again, we're back at the Crowleyan level stuff, and she prophesies that what Arnold is going to do. Right, Zamora is her name, the witch, and she prophesies that one will come from the north, the servant of CROM from Valhalla, to destroy the snake cult. There's also a Nietzschean element to the film too, with the fact that Thulsa Doom's cult is it's a bunch of priests, And this plays into Nietzsche's idea of like genealogy of morals and where morals, quote unquote, come from. And Nietzsche thinks that in the ancient world, the priest class is really who had the power, and that they were the power behind the throne, and they could kind of hold everybody captive to the priestly ruse and deception that they foisted. And so Nietzsche is a great quote at the beginning, because it kind of gives credence to the idea that the warrior class, right, is set over against the priest class, because the priest class is very corrupt, which is true. I mean, we can give Nietzsche some credit there, because in many cases and many times in history, that's obviously true. The priest class is totally corrupt and degenerate, like our day. Hello. Yeah. But now, by the way, you can just also just sort of stumble upon all of your fellow quest comrades. You just stumble upon, like, you just walk around and you meet your Asian sidekick. You just stumble around and you find your magic sword. You stumble around and you find your blonde lover. I don't know what she is. We don't know where she just kind of stumbles into the scene. Oh, by the way, hey, what's up? You want to go in there and steal some shit? That's literally how he meets her. And so they infiltrate the Temple of Set. It's called the Temple of Set. And there are the snake deceivers, as they're called. And by the way, CROM, upon which most people think CROM, Conan's god, is based, CROM actually did require human sacrifice, which I've always thought was amusing, because you watch the movie and you think, oh, Arnold is there to put an end to the cannibalism and the human sacrifice of the snake cult. But it turns out that in Irish Gaelic history, CROM was a human sacrifice god that St. Patrick booted, right? When St. Patrick Christianized Ireland, get rid of the human sacrifice CROM cult. By the way, there's a great scene where Arnold gets drunk and where he begins to get wealthy and lazy, and he's offered a bevy of women. And by the way, in the ancient Hyborian world, they did know the term sluts, right? And so he's offered a bevy of women, and he says, "Thou sluts!" And then he, knocks a camel out. Literally knocks a camel out after saying all the women are sluts. Pretty based, actually. I'd like to punch a camel and call a bunch of women sluts. That sounds pretty based. They enter the Tower of the Serpent to look for the Eye of the Serpent. This is interesting because watch my Mandy review, because in my analysis of Mandy, I go into the idea of the symbolic meaning of the eye of the serpent. So you have to go over and find my Mandy, Nick Cage Mandy analysis to see what I think the eye of the serpent refers to. Now they wreak some havoc up in here. They get rid of the cheese ball. Actually, the snake is not too bad, right? Because it's an animatronic puppet snake, but it's not that bad. It actually looks pretty good. They get rid of all that, clean all that up, and we see for the first time the all-seeing eye. Thulsa Doom's symbol is also an all-seeing eye. It's not just the double-headed snake with the black sun. Think of the ancient black sun idea, which came up in the Midsummer analysis. Go watch my Midsummer analysis, by the way, because there was a scant, subtle reference to the black sun. Now, Thulsa Doom, of course, runs a sex cult, and he wants Vestal virgins. We also see the Ouroboros present here, the all-seeing eye in the background. I think Oliver Stone is telling us something a long time ago, right? He was probably like, bruh, I told y'all what was going on a long time ago. None of y'all caught it. None of y'all understood what was going on. Stogies. Stogies. If you've watched my Stogies clip, not mine. Everything is terrible Stogie clip, but go watch the Stogies clip, and that's exactly how he sounds. It's also a mind control cult. Enter in the mind control. So Thulsa Doom knows not just how to run shit, right? But he also knows how to mind control. He has mind controlled the daughter of the king, Max von Sydow, and brought her into his hippie cult, and he's got her under his spell. So there's a cult that runs stuff, They do human sacrifice, traffic people, kids. They worship snake gods. They mind control. They have an underground base and a mountain of power. It's almost like, do we actually live in that world of Hyboria? And the answer is yes. I was just bewitched by a lesbian witch queen tonight. I'm joking. I did find this plastic sword in CROM's Atlantean dungeon, by the way. The cult looks kind of like Osho's cult, by the way, if you notice that, which is fascinating. Now, in order to join the cult, you have to go through mystical stages of attaining total emptiness. Whoa, where have we heard that? Like I said, it's a New Age created Eastern cult, and you go through total emptiness so that you lose all your willpower, all your faculties, and you just submit to whatever Thulsa Doom says. It's a mind control cult. A mind control cult with an all-seeing eye at the top of it. Booyah. Now, Arnold isn't just an Arnold character. He's also a Christ-like character, which is fascinating because he's sentenced, after he tries to infiltrate the cult, he's sentenced to hanging on the tree of woe in a crucifixion, right? So he becomes a Christ-like type of figure. And he's kind of mind-effed by Thulsa Doom because Thulsa Doom says, dude, you wouldn't be you if it wasn't for all the trauma I inflicted on you, so you owe me a thanks, right? And that's kind of the abuser-abusee relationship, right? The abuser is always saying, I've only made you stronger. I've only helped you. You should thank me for all of my abuse, right? Gaslighting type stuff, right? And we see the power of the mind control cult because Thulsa Doom quite literally says, allow me to show you. Come to me. Come to me, my child. Come to me, my child. Right? And the girl just sort of walks off the cliff and power of mind control cults. Now, Arnold undergoes his death, burial, resurrection ritual. He pulls an Aussie and bites the necks of the vultures. In reality, we're told. He dies, sort of, but the ritual of Mako brings him back, or doesn't allow him to fully die. He's kind of in an in-between state. So, but we have a kind of death, burial, resurrection ritual. And Arnold is then able to return and take out Thulsa Doom. And in the end, what's interesting is that I guess we could debate the meaning of the end. We kind of have the idea that of what his dad told him at the beginning. Are the gods just men? By the way, there's a cannibal cult aspect to this too. Did you notice that in the Mylanta green pea soup that Thulsa Doom's cooking up, there's hands and body parts? So it's a cannibal cult that uses sex magic and traffics people and sacrifices them. Yeah, it sounds like Thulsa Epstein or something, right? Yeah. And so in the end, when Arnold saves the princess sort of bows to him, and he's kind of like, yeah, whatever, right? He burns down the snake temple. So is the meaning of the movie, the gods are men? Is that what the movie means? Or is it Christ-like symbology? Interesting. That's up for you, I guess. Now, we will have Boiler Room in an hour, so stick around if you're interested. We'll be back streaming the Boiler Room, right? CROM, Stogies. And I hope you enjoyed my brief analysis. By the way, I got a treat for you. Guess what? Guess what next episode is going to be? Got a treat. For many, many years, we've had the request, bro, when you going to cover some Val Kilmer? And I have to say, I've been negligent. I've been lax in covering the gods I'm in. I've been lax in covering Val Kilmer. The great Val Kilmer. Love Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer is great. Mad Martigan. Willow. You are great. Mad Martigan. So, treat. Next show. I don't know, 2 or 3 days. I'll put the show up. The Saint, Willow, and Batman Forever. A Val triple feature. Val killing it. We're going to kill it with Kilmer in the next episode. So, here's your homework, movie nerds. The Saint, one of my favorite 90s movies. The Saint, one of my favorites. I love The Saint. It's great. Willow and Batman Forever. You're watching Jay on Film. I don't have a name for this show yet. I don't know what the name of this is. So we're just calling it whatever. The show that has no name. It's not Esoteric Hollywood, although we still do have the esoteric elements, don't we? Yes, we do. But yes, so next time up, The Saint, Willow, Batman Forever. Thank you for watching the Conan trilogy. Loose trilogy. Sort of trilogy. Next up, yes, Val killing it. The Val triple feature. Please do your homework. It'll make the show a lot more entertaining if you are remembering the facts, so that when I quote the lines and do the voices, you'll be like, ha ha ha, that's very funny that you know the lines and can do the voices. I just heard them. Josh for $5. CROM! Ah! Yes. Moral Carks, $9.99. Tell me more about these phallic powers. I'm not like you. Oh, stogies. Stogies are phallic. So the answer to the question about the phallic powers is in the Arnold clip on my Twitter about stogies. That's your other homework. Go to my Twitter. Go to my Twitter and find under the media. Here it is right here. Under media, there's the Arnold clip. It's one of the greatest clips of all time. By the way, make that go viral or something. Give me a zillion followers. Yeah, dog. And then you'll, Moral Carks, you will understand the phallic powers when you watch Arnold explain stogies to you, because stogies are phallic. G-Dub, $10. My God laughs at your God. He laughs from his mountain. Or was that the line of, oh, that's Thulsa Doom's line, right? Come to me, my child, come to me. Vitaly Khmelnytsky, $5. Thank you, Vitaly. Always appreciate your support and everybody's support for the new incarnation, the second episode. Well, actually, we've kind of been doing this style for multiple shows, haven't we? I mean, you can go back to when I did Lethal Weapon, which the Eddie Murphy 80s cop, Buddy Cop. I did a Buddy Cop episode, and the algorithm killed it. I did Blade, Monster Squad, Lost Boys, and the algorithm didn't like that. I thought that was one of the best. That was a lot of fun. I love that one. But you can go find all those, which for whatever reason the algorithm didn't like, which is annoying. But you can go find those. Don't go to church with James Earl Jones because it's a snake cult. Don't go to Thulsa Doom's church. That's the other takeaway, right? Wise words and takeaway. Don't go to James Earl Jones's church. Other wise words, other takeaway. Don't date Red Sonja Justice Warriors because you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get any unless you can beat her in hand-to-hand combat. Yeah, I think that's it for today. Definitely get your copies of Esoteric Hollywood that are covering up my face, 1 and 2. Go to the shop at Jay's Analysis. If you have not got your copies, allow me to remind you, you can get signed copies at Jay's Analysis. Don't get it from Amazon. Don't give your money to Jeff Bezos. Give your money to me. I mean, do you see Jeff Bezos dressed up like a barbarian, quoting Arnold to you? No. What's he doing? Nothing. Messing everything up. Right? Come on. Here is the link, by the way, in the chat right now to get your copy of Esoteric Hollywood in the shop at Jay's Analysis. All right, stay tuned for Boiler Room. I don't know who's on Boiler Room tonight. Don't know what our topics are, but you know it's going to be great. Boiler Room in 1 hour. Roughly. Probably an hour. Yeah. And thank you guys. And I hope you enjoyed Conan. Please share this. Smash the like button. You know, algorithms are not favoring people doing independent content. So now we really need you guys to share the content, because if you don't, then it's just going to dry up and you're going to just all be sitting back there watching crappy mainstream content again. So please support. You have to support us, people doing the independent content, or else it's just going to go away and we're going to have to be watching a bunch of mainstream garbage again. So support us, support your independent creators. Don't give your money to the big zillion-dollar corporations that want to destroy you. God bless everybody. Have a good night, and be looking in the next few days for the Val triple feature.